let's get into your segment. Alan, first up on the show is Alan Bayer, coach and consultant with the Who Am I Answer. You have a new book coming out called The Who Am I Answer. I'm guessing that's the... What's the focus of your book?
The focus of the book was... It actually came about because I just hit a hard time in my life where I had these highs and then these lows. And I was tired of hitting the lows, and I just wanted some answers. And the answers came in by way of assessments, and with Myers-Briggs, Clifton Strengths, Kolbe Fascinate, and a number of others. And that's where I started to discover, wow, this is who I am. And I also learned what my weaknesses are. And I found when I was in the trough, when I was in the low parts, is when I was practicing or focusing on weaknesses. Almost like being at a casino when you're losing and then you start dumping money in and you can't stop digging that hole. And so I found out who I am with all these assessments. Some of it was, I know who I am and this is great, but it was just reinforcement. Yeah, you are an extrovert. You do have a lot of energy. Yeah, you are, creative and you have all these ideas. Don't hide them, accentuate them.
Yeah, I think that's something even, as the kids are coming up, it's trying to find out what are they good at, focusing on that. We all have to work through some of the bad things that we're not good at. And that can be a great thing. I'm watching a thing on Michael Jordan right now, a Netflix special. He's such an amazing athlete, right? But he would focus on, his deficiencies, but he used his talent. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, well, I totally agree with that because I believe in focusing on your strengths, right? You focus on your strengths so you can strive and be better. And then you most definitely need to, whatever your weaknesses are, you need to fire up on those as well. I mean, we always, at Big Brothers Big Sisters, and whatever I do personally, I always engage on strengths first so I can see exactly what I need to do so I can move forward. And then from there, to critique myself to see what those weaknesses are.
And there's a difference between focusing on strengths to improve them versus focusing on them as a beating yourself up kind of a thing. What are your thoughts there, Heather?
I mean, focusing on strengths about beating, or you mean beating yourself up over all your weaknesses?
Yeah, so I think to Alan's point, he is all about focusing on the strengths, but you still also have to take into account the weaknesses to try and improve, but let's not stay there and beat ourselves up over it. That's what I mean.
Oh, I mean, I feel like I have this conversation almost on the daily because I feel like we tend to focus on our weaknesses, even at an unconscious level. It's like, oh, I didn't follow up like I thought, like I know I should. I know I should do this, but I consistently don't do it, so that makes me bad. And that's not the case. It is not intrinsically good or bad not do these things. It's just you're not great at them and you may not like doing them. And focusing on your strengths to me is really identifying what it is that you're good at and leaning into that and acknowledging your weaknesses, saying, yeah, I do have them. It doesn't make me a bad person, but if I'm not going to get it done, then how can I get it done? It may not be you doing it. I mean, that's half the conversations I have, right? Do you have to do this? Because if you're not following up and you've not followed up and now it's 6 months down the road and that person is going to be a little weirded out if you call them 6 months from when you met them because you've been procrastinating on it, maybe we need to figure out a different way to get that activity done that you're just consistently dropping the ball on. So when you come in and you do these tests on a team, do you find that there are people in the wrong seats in roles, like their personalities don't lend themselves to the job that they're supposed to be doing?
I think that happens all the time, whether it's in businesses, whether it's in families, whether it's in, wherever it is, in couples. And it's amazing when they focus on their strengths and they just shine. And then when they're focusing the weakness, you can almost see them, huddled down like there's a 1,000-pound weight on them. And it's like, what if we took this load off of you, okay? Or let's find, what are these areas we're noticing that you're not, you're taking 6 months to follow up. We could do one of two things. We could either send you to classes on how to follow up or, hey, Bob over here is incredible at follow-up because of his talents and strengths in follow-up. This is what he does. And, we find that with the Kolbe assessment. He does great at follow-up. He's not great at brainstorming. You are. So why don't we team, like your team, why don't we team you two up, and this is how we can make, the two and rise up. 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, it equals 3. You're getting so much more out of them.
That's a great point. When I started my business, my big thing was cold calling. right? Because I needed to get people to come on the show when it was a radio show. And even though it's a cool thing to offer, right? Hey, you want to come on the radio? And I got a lot of yeses. I still wasn't good at it. And then the follow-up, I didn't follow up. If I didn't get through or it was a no at that point, that was the end of it. But that was the first thing that I filled in my company was somebody to make those calls for me. She's still with me a year later. She's my chief of operations now. So
how does that feel to you?
Awesome. It was awesome to get it off my plate. But I've done that, and that's how I ended up at 27 or 28 employees. Now it's like getting things off of my plate so that we can move the business forward. Super important.
And you're still in business. So it's not like you handed it
and
off.
I enjoy
it's
it.
like, in your plane crash, it actually rose up even better. So 1 + 1 equals even
10,000.
greater than 3. Yeah.
I'd say 10,000 anyway. So your book, what was the inspiration for your book?
So with the book was when I started doing this, it felt like open heart and open brain surgery on myself without anesthesia, is I'm going, I'm starting to see that other people could really use this. And I started writing the book 5 different ways I didn't like it. And someone said, who's your avatar? I'm like, what do you mean, the movie? He goes, if someone were sitting across from you, who would you want to be telling this story to? And I go, man, I would love to go back in time to my younger self and fix all those mistakes, those bumps and bruises, all those wrong people I was with, all those, and just fix those. That would be great. And so I wrote it, and it starts out as, hey, Alan. So all of it is a series of letters to myself and just trying to fix, what I would do going back in the past. So that's all the way through. I have these letters to myself. The second part of the book is going through the assessments on how others can learn. But basically, I put myself out there. You know who I am when you read the book, because you know that, with Colby, I'm this score. With Fascinate, I'm a maverick leader. If anybody reads it, they're going to know who I am. I put myself out there just boldly and just bared myself with that.
And you've got quite a few different tests on the book that you talk about that you use to find your clarity. Is this going to help someone decide which tests to take, or will it lead them through the same journey that you took to kind of go through all of them?
I think it's... They all have their different nuances. You see a lot of crossover with them, but then there's one. I just took the DISC assessment. I didn't get certified with DISC, but I took it, and it gave me another nuance to it. I think it's like, okay, we're going to make bread. Okay, and someone comes along with an assessment, flour. Flour is the key thing that you need to make bread. So everybody goes out and buys flour, and all they do is make goop. And it's like, okay, sugar is what you need to make, and then everybody makes a sticky stuff. No, it's a combination of all of them to get a bread loaf. We're complicated people. You need all these different things to learn who you are, and I think they're all great. One of them is on the sleep doctor. It's like, wow. And he said, when we did these old assessments, it was cutting out 10% of my audience, the insomniacs. And so that's what he focuses on, and I've got that chapter in my book too. If you're not getting your sleep, we're kind of, dumb. And he kind of shows you here's how you make yourself operate at the best is by, focusing on your sleep.
You've heard of that phrase, don't try and put a square peg into a round hole.
I've got that chapter
Although I
in my
have
book
seen
too.
a TikTok where they put all different shapes into the same square hole, which is hilarious, right?
Yeah, I've seen that.
But so I think that's to the point, is that if you're trying to fit somebody to a job they're not designed for, that it's going to create problems, and it can affect the rest of the folks there. So, all right, if folks want to get your book, how do they do that? Where do they find it?
It's on Amazon right now. It's on pre-order for the ebook, but they can order the paperback on Amazon. And if you look up, and there's several different titles of Who Am I? So go to Who Am I, Alan Bayer, and then you will find, this screen will pop up, and they can order it. The paperbacks, it's a little bit expensive because it's all in color, and that was because of all the assessments are color-coded. And or they can go to my website, thewhoamianswer.com, and they can download the digital version for $2.99.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Alan. I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
And I'll look for my copy of the book when it comes out.